Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Spoiled, our brand new spoilercast here on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield. You can find me on Twitter at Dinfire, and I'm discussing Rise of Skywalker today with Mitch Sikorsky. You can find him on Twitter at Mitch Sikor, S-I-K-O-R. As I said, this is one of our brand new pieces of audio-only content on Sifted. It's a big push for us in 2020. And also this show is going to focus on a lot more than just games. As I said, we're going to talk about a film here. Our first episode was about the Witcher TV show on Netflix. We will get to games. And it's just worked out that the first 2 episodes of this show ended up being about something other than games.
And they relate back to games.
They do,
and
absolutely.
Star Wars is in video games.
Yeah, this one not as much as The Witcher, but...
We did get Jedi Fallen Order, though.
That is true, right around the same time. So I guess it does kind of line up. If you like our content, you'd like to help us out, you can go to patreon.com/sifted. That's S-I-F-T-D. You can give us as much or as little as you want a month. And if you can't afford to do that, you can always help us with Twitch Prime. All you got to do is link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then subscribe to our Twitch channel, and you give us a free $2.50 a month. You have to do that every month, though. It's such a pain in the ass. It would be really nice if our users could just set it and forget it, but unfortunately, you have to go back every month and resubscribe to our channel. But anyway, with all the formalities out of the way, let's talk about The Rise of Skywalker. Do you think this movie was more or less divisive than The Last Jedi? I think no matter when you put out a Star Wars movie, there's always going to be a lot of people pissed off. But which one do you think has drawn the most controversy? Because everybody hated how The Last Jedi handled Luke Skywalker.
I liked that. See, for me, it's because I like...
Not everyone. A lot of people hate it.
Because I like
them both. I'll just say right away, I like both films. But
yeah, I was going to say, I really like The Last Jedi. It's actually one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
Okay.
It's not my top. Rogue One is my all-time favorite Star Wars movie. I think that one is amazing, and I kind of have some relatable reasons to this one of my differences between those two films. But I think maybe this one might be a little bit more decisive than The Last Jedi because The Last Jedi happened.
Okay.
And people similar to myself really liked the movie and may not like this one because, in a sense, people feel like it throws jabs at it. So I think it's just as decisive. I think going forward, regardless for this saga, it's just decisive all over the place.
Divisive.
Yes, for sure. And it's definitely...
Because people are so passionate about Star Wars. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
People experience Star Wars differently. Like when I was a kid, that's when the prequels came out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did experience the original trilogy, but it wasn't as...
what did you think of those films as a kid? I was already an adult when they came out, so... As
a kid, I really, really liked The Phantom Menace, and I really liked the third movie.
Okay.
That one is Revenge of the Sith. And I didn't care for as much as... I love the action in the second one, and that's why, mainly as a kid, I'm just like, oh, this is cool, lightsabers, like
That's
actions.
Why I wondered, yeah. I mean, did you not really realize that... Did you have any idea that most Star Wars fans thought they were terrible?
Not until I got older.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the original trilogy when I was a kid. I got the VHS box set when I was a kid because I really liked Darth Vader. Like Darth Vader was my jam. But I really didn't like those films as much as a kid.
Yeah.
It's really strange. And so when I it's interesting to talk to my dad about Star Wars because we grew up. He saw it when he was a kid.
Yeah. Like
the original Star Wars. He remembers going in the movie theater and how amazing it was. And for me, it's a little different. So. Yeah, it is quite different.
See, I saw the original Star Wars. I was a kid. Like a kid. The first Star Wars I went to see with my mom and her second husband with my sister at a drive-thru. And blew my mind. And then after Star Wars ended, this crazy movie called The Man Who Fell to Earth, starring David Bowie, started playing. And the very first scene in the movie is a sex scene in an elevator. And I remember we were in a station wagon, and my sister and I had been camping out in the way back, like watching Star Wars. And that movie came on, and I remember peeking my eyes up over the back seat and seeing, like, sex and just being like, what is that? And my mom turns around and goes, you guys need to go to sleep. We just like laid down and had to listen to the movie for like 2 hours, not allowed to watch it. And I honestly, like, I just remember I loved it. I think I was so young. I was really young. And I think I was so little that, like, I didn't remember that much about it. Then Empire Strikes Back was the first Star Wars movie where I was old enough and cognizant enough to, like, totally get it. Mm-hmm. And as it worked out, it was the best film of the original trilogy, in my opinion, at least. And I think that's a pretty accepted consensus. And even in hindsight, it's still in my top 3 Star Wars movies. So, and then,
yeah, for sure, it's in my top 5,
yeah,
for sure.
And then, Return of the Jedi. After that, I was young, so I didn't see a lot of the hokiness in the movie. I think that's one thing when you're a kid you don't develop, is a radar for things that are hokey and cheesy.
Well, and at the same time,
I think that's something that you develop as you get older. When you're a kid, you don't pick up on that stuff at all. You're just like, what do you mean? They're just having fun. Like, as you get older, your perspective on things changes a lot. But I can still watch the original trilogy from beginning to end and not feel like I'm not entertained or I want to turn it off.
And I think
I cannot say that about the second trilogy.
Sure, and I think probably the thing for me, and I think it affects people in a younger generation, is how movies looked and how movies were when we weren't alive, and we see current movies right now, and then all of a sudden we try to go back to watch an older movie. It's kind of jarring.
It is. Yeah.
It's that's why in regards to enjoyment is like, yeah, I've seen them, they're enjoyable, but it's like I don't understand the concept of that was like CG in the first trilogy for me the
they're models in the original trilogy.
Exactly.
It's not even CG.
It's just so different.
I think I'm pleasantly surprised by how well a lot of that stuff still holds up, though.
Oh, it does.
I think if they had tried to do CG back then, those movies would be a joke.
They do cheat though, because Lucasfilm constantly updates the movies.
Stuff, yeah.
And so
I know which version I'm watching when I watch them. I know whether it's been the doctored version or whether I'm watching. I still have the raw original versions from the 80s I can watch anytime I want. So
yeah, they're very different when you watch them.
Oh yeah, it's amazing what they've done. Because when I was a kid
and I got the DVD set, I was like, I don't think this was that good looking. Really?
Yeah.
And then I saw
they put some makeup, put some lipstick on the pig here and there.
Oh, absolutely. But besides that, what do you know about Star Wars?
A lot. I mean, look, I never really dug into the lore. I remember when I was a kid, people bought me books, Star Wars books, because they knew how much I loved it. Mm-hmm. I would never read them. Like, I would get like 20 pages into them, and I'd realize that they didn't have Luke and Leia and Han and all the characters that I cared about, and I just would stop reading them.
And have you seen any of the TV shows?
Some. I've watched some of Clone Wars. I have not seen The Mandalorian yet. I'm about to get Disney Plus and just watch it all in one sitting, basically. I wasn't going to get jobbed into paying for Disney Plus for 2 months. That's what they did. I mean, they released all the episodes at once, so people would have to pay for the second month of Disney Plus.
Well, Disney Plus is my childhood, so I definitely coughed up the money for that thing.
I mean, most people did, but I honestly, I'm not a big Disney file. I honestly have zero reverence for Disney, like the way some people do.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They're just another entertainment company to me.
Yeah, Disney Channel was a big thing when I was a kid, so for us...
I mean, I've known people in my life that are obsessed with Disney. There are a lot of people that live here in L.A. that are obsessed with Disney. I mean, I have a friend, I'm not going to name any names, but I have a friend who literally goes to Disney probably 3 days a week, every week.
Oh, no, I can't.
So,
yeah,
I'm not like that.
No.
I am the farthest thing from that. Star Wars, I loved it. I had all the toys. I had all the figures for Christmas. All I asked for was Star Wars stuff. But most of my experience and interest is rooted in the theatrical releases.
Similar here. I've seen almost all of Clone Wars. I'm on the last season right now because I've been really getting into it because I have Disney Plus now. Yep. So Rebels is something I'm going to jump into. I know about characters and what happens in Rebels, especially with, obviously, because we're in spoilers, there's like Ahsoka and those kinds of characters. I do know about those things. So I do have a grasp. I haven't read any lore books, and thank God I have. I kind of like, the only thing I did like about the merger with Disney with Star Wars so far was kind of resetting everything to say, hey, this is kind of fictional universe stuff, so that it's not as confusing for people. because there's so much lore
There is
in
so much.
Star Wars.
And I think
it's hard to keep
that
up.
was another thing. As an adult, as a kid, I didn't care. I was like, oh, there's no Han. Where's Luke and Leia? As an adult, it just became too much.
Oh, sure.
I have to draw a line at a certain point with most IP. Like at a certain point, I'm like, I can't go any farther with this. I know there are people out there that are doing it. I can't be that person.
Right.
And that's the way I've been with pretty much every IP I've ever experienced in my life. I've never been the guy that just lost his mind and went down a rabbit hole. I guess I could put it that way.
I only did that with one show. But besides that, no.
What show is that?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
Which is my greatest show of all time.
Okay, so you just set the tone for your discussion on Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, yes.
You just told everyone your favorite show of all time is Buffy.
Yes.
And now they have to respect your opinion on Rise of Skywalker.
Yep, and we're moving on.
All right, let's talk about the actual film. What did you think of the film overall?
I really didn't like it that much.
Like, really didn't like it.
It's in my bottom third, bottom fourth section, probably.
What's the next Star Wars movie that you think is better than Rise of Skywalker?
Better than Rise.
So if Skywalker's like 8th, what's number 7? Like, what's the next film that you think is better than Rise of Skywalker?
I would say it would probably be like a New Hope, or actually,
so the first film.
I'm sorry, not A New Hope. I want to do what's the first one in the new trilogy? Wow, I'm blanking on it. First
Rise of the Jedi.
No, the first film in this trilogy that they just did.
Oh,
Force Awakens.
Yeah,
I would say Force Awakens is a little better than this one.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Solo is the worst.
Really? Solo is your last?
Solo is my last.
Oh, wow. See, I didn't like it that much. I thought it was kind of boring. But I still think it's way better than at least 2 of the middle trilogy films.
I'm not a big fan of Han Solo in general. And so that didn't help going into the film. And then it really didn't impress me. I mean, the ending was really cool with Darth Maul. Yeah. But besides that, I was like, this is not that enjoyable to be honest.
So it's really low down your totem pole.
It's really down my totem pole, unfortunately. I mean, it had so many opportunities that it couldn't have, but it definitely is, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would probably put it 4th or 5th for me among all Star Wars movies, somewhere around there. Okay. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, actually.
If I turned off my brain when I watched this movie multiple times, and the second time...
I've only seen it once. I should have said that.
When I saw it the second time, and I knew what was happening in the film already, and I didn't get it all at once in the first time, I did enjoy it more.
You liked it more the second time you saw it.
I did, but that's just because I knew...
That's not generally the trait of a bad film. That's usually the trait of a really good film.
But that's just because I already knew what's going to happen, and so I just get over it. Like, I had to basically say, I'm going to get over the thing that bugs me the most in this film, which we'll definitely talk about. I just had to get over that, and then I was like, okay, this is a little bit more enjoyable. But it's not like I was like, oh man, this is a great ride. It's like, yeah, it's more watchable after I get over this.
Basically, you're saying you could then understand why some people liked it.
For sure. I can understand why people really like this film. But I just did not like it very much.
So what? We have a structure for this episode, but when you say something like that, it makes me want to ignore it.
We go. It's just notes, so whatever. You can go wherever route you want. Why do I not like it very much?
I just can't understand why you could understand that other people like it, but you don't. Why are you not like the other people? What's different about you that makes you not like it when other people do?
There's a difference between pandering and like the callbacks and pandering. And
I just let those wash all over me, man. As a Star Wars fan, like I knew they were cheesy, like especially the very last shot where Luke and Leia's faces are superimposed in the sky. Like the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe that they did this. And at the same time, I was like, F yeah, you did that. Like,
but see, for me,
here's the thing. I think a lot of people take this shit way too serious. And look, I realize we're doing a spoiler podcast right now which probably is taking something too seriously. But it drives me crazy how people go watching these, like your first watch to me should have been like your second watch. Like your first watch should have been you just going in and trying to enjoy the film. And then you go back the second time, and then maybe you start picking it apart and looking a little closer. Like, I think you are going about it the wrong way. And you're not alone. I think that's the way most people go in and watch movies. They don't go in to just kind of enjoy them for entertainment. They go in so that they can nitpick them so that they can then talk on the internet about it. Like, I don't know. My perspective is I pay money for entertainment. I want to be entertained. I don't pay money for entertainment hoping that I don't get entertained or looking for reasons why I'm not being entertained.
But I don't see that as the way I go into the film at all.
It sounds like that's the way you went into this film.
You know, when I go into a film, I go into it trying to see what's going to do, but if I can't understand the choice or believe the choice that they're trying to put in front of me, it ruins me trying to understand the rest of the film.
Okay.
So I guess the whole point, and the Emperor's alive. The first 5 minutes of that film, I could not get past. Even when we were 30 minutes to an hour into the film, I'm like, I still can't get past how we got here. This does not make any sense. Why
does it not make sense? Explain it.
Okay, so obviously we didn't see him technically die.
I mean, Han Solo's still alive.
Yeah, well, no, that was like
frozen in carbonite. Now he's alive, doing movie after movie.
Well, for the Emperor, it's more of a concept of I'm fine that the Emperor's alive. That's fine. I can get over. I can understand that concept. We never saw him truly die. He's been one that has lasted through the entire series. It only makes sense.
We also saw other Jedis be able to project themselves. I mean, it's not that far out of left field that he would be alive.
No, and for me, it's more of the erection of these giant space stations that all of a sudden he has a giant fleet that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, but he's been gone for so long.
Yeah, fully staffed though under ice. Like, what are they all frozen in the ice or what?
No, they're in gigantic ships with climate control inside them.
But then they are built with planet destroying technology. Like, where did he grab the technology from? He's been away from the world. How in the world has he been able to build this tech when they're?
What do you mean? He could have been like 5 galaxies away. You're thinking about this movie like it's taking place in 2019. This is like thousands of years in the future.
It's just way too far of a fetch to understand that he has an entire fleet, an entire army of people on this planet.
That doesn't surprise me at all. He's like the most powerful being in the universe. You don't think he could get a bunch of people to follow him? He could like strike them down. Think about that. You meet someone in real life who can fire electricity out of their freaking hands. You're not going to be like, you're not going to bow down and be like, oh my God, like I have to worship you because you can just wipe me out of existence.
But they're on a planet.
He could absolutely inspire people to follow him and create a new uprising. I don't think there's any question about that.
But that would make sense if they're on a planet that anyone could access. This planet has only been accessed via 2 devices that have been hidden for a long time. So where in the world did he get these people to follow him through the whatever it is that
he could have found him anywhere in like a galaxy eons away. I can't believe you're so caught up on this. You got to get over it, man. That's a petty argument, I think. I think. Okay, so I set it off on the wrong tone. Then what?
For me, it came out of left field too much.
Okay,
it's just like, you know, it's meant to be a trilogy. It's meant to be a saga, and I think if they I don't know how I would have not done it on that planet. I don't know how I would have done it differently, to be truthfully honest, because
you wouldn't have done it at all.
Right, exactly. So, but I think the throwbacks is a little bit too much for me. And so
the throwbacks?
The pandering, the throwbacks to like Chewie getting a medal and all those kinds of things really threw me off in the film. Because here's the
first movie in this trilogy was a remake of the first film,
and that's where I'm going to get to right now. So I'm okay with that film being like that.
Why?
I'm totally fine with that.
Why? You're skewering Rise of Skywalker for callbacks. The first movie in the trilogy was literally A New Hope remade.
And that's fine.
Why is that fine? And why is it not fine for Rise of Skywalker?
Because it's a film that is trying to bring people back to say, we're bringing back Star Wars. And I can understand.
See, I don't look at anything. I don't look at any of that shit when I evaluate anything. But I don't care about that. I'm just watching the film. But I don't care what people think before I watch the film. I don't care what preconceived notions some dude I don't know has built up in his mind about the film. I just watch the film, or I play the game, or I listen to the album. Like, I think this is a mistake that people go into experience entertainment with all these preconceived notions about what it's supposed to be.
I'm not saying
but these people are not making the art. They have no right to tell an artist how to make something. So
I'm not telling them that they're supposed to make it that way.
But you just said this movie is supposed to blah blah blah. A movie isn't supposed to do anything. It's supposed to entertain. That's it.
No, I was just saying it felt like they were just saying, here's Star Wars, we're bringing it back, which was nice. And that's why it is.
I don't know what that means.
But that also is.
What does that mean? Who is they?
That because it got bought out by Disney. So they're saying.
So you're saying Disney is they?
Disney is they.
But
I
don't understand how you can't see what I'm saying here.
Again, the film is on my lower end. It's not on my high end. This is not an amazing Rise. The Force Awakens is not an amazing film. I can understand why they would do that. I can understand the mentality for
I hated it. But I thought I was really disappointed in the first
movie
in this trilogy.
But this is why I really liked the second one. This is why I really liked The Last Jedi. Because I
loved it too.
Because they took chances. They took risks. They're not saying, hey, we're going to
Was it reviving Emperor Palpatine a risk? Yes, it absolutely. Obviously, it pissed you off.
No,
it was a risk.
No, again, I said I didn't care about the Emperor Palpatine coming back. I'm fine with that. I'm totally cool with that. I just can't get over the all these starships appearing out of nowhere. He had this army for a long time waiting for this one moment to do this thing. It just didn't. It didn't.
That makes perfect sense in Star Wars. Perfect sense.
But for me, it didn't work.
Okay.
But I guess that's why I liked The Last Jedi so much, because I liked that they took chances with Star Wars. That's why I really like Rogue One, because even I think the cherry on top, having that Darth Vader scene at the end, yes, that is throwing back to something, but that film would have been great even if it wasn't in it. It just made it better. It just elevated the material because.
But I think some people would argue that the stuff that's in Rise of Skywalker makes that film better.
No.
Why? Well, how can you definitively say that?
Because it's constant. It's not. See, for something like Rogue One, that film, it doesn't do it constantly. It's not that every other scene is some kind of throwback to something else.
I mean, that's not an accurate description of Rise of Skywalker. Every other scene isn't a throwback to something. Start naming them, the throwbacks.
You got the Chewie medal. You do have the moment where the Emperor opens up the ceiling tile to see, oh, your friends are failing you. That's a throwback to the Return of the Jedi. That's another throwback that
I didn't even pick up on that one.
They do so many scenes like that. Where
no, keep listing them. Let's go. Let's see how many there are. You said it's every other scene. You should be able to list at least 10.
Okay, so they do those scenes together. Those are the ones
hanging with the Ewoks at the end.
Yes. Seeing all the different planets that are like, why are we shooting to these planets that it doesn't really matter?
What?
I'm embellishing the scene you're talking about, where they go to the different planets. They do the end where she goes to Tatooine and I get why she put the lightsabers there, but the sunset.
The sunset? You're talking about the sunset when it has Luke and Leia's head imposed in the sky?
They're not imposed in the sky.
Yeah, their faces are imposed in the sky. They're like, how did you miss that?
I missed
They're like lovingly looking at her in the sky while she's like burying the lightsabers.
No, they look at her when the girl asks, "Who are you?" And then she goes,
it's all the same
I'm
scene.
Rey Skywalker.
But yeah, they're in the sky. Their faces are up there.
No, but I'm fine with, and that's my issue with Rey as well, is I don't like that she's a Palpatine. Personally,
Okay, let's go back. So you've 5. There's 5, maybe 4.5. I'll give you because the one I don't agree with because I didn't even recognize it. So that's 4.5 callbacks.
Yeah,
it's a 3-hour movie.
2.5, but yes. But no, I mean there is more, and I don't want to. We're not going to go listing forever of this thing.
But you're saying that it's like every other. This is your point about the film. This is why you don't like it.
Well,
but you're not backing it up with much proof.
Because the film is so fast, which it's a really fast film, which it feels in a sense like it should be 2 films instead of 1 film.
It was long.
It was long, but when you're going from scene to scene, it is very quick. From going for like, oh, you need to get the dagger. All of a sudden they're like, oh, we got the dagger. Now we got to go here, and it's very zoomy, quick. Wow. Okay. I don't know why I said that.
I think you just made up a phrase.
I guess. So it goes very quickly. So then I guess in my mind, maybe it's not as much as I think it was, but because it was so quick of a film, I felt as if it was kept doing that.
I think you found a couple things and you're just like hanging your hat on it, man. Like, there aren't that many callbacks in the film.
It just
definitely not every other scene. You got to willingly admit to that.
Sure, not every other scene. It felt as in my mind like every other scene, but it definitely was not every other scene. But
I will agree with you. My big criticism of the film, other than like the hokiness, which I was as a big Star Wars fan, I was like, whatever. I
love hokiness. Like, that's Star Wars. Cool. I'm down for that.
A lot of people didn't like it, and I can appreciate that. But I do like it just personally. My big issue is what you said. The movie does jump. And there are some like that are too big of jumps. And you can tell that maybe it should have been 2 films or maybe it should have been 3 hours. But there's a lot of moments where stuff just happens and they expect you to sort it out in your mind why it's happening. They don't have 2 characters talking saying, we're doing this because of this. And the other person going, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go do it. Like, they don't have those scenes. It just happens. And then you have to like watch it and just kind of accept it. And that's what I said. I just let the film wash over me. Like, I wasn't sitting there, like, just looking scene by scene, saying, what's wrong? Why isn't this here? Why didn't they explain this? Like, it's Star Wars. I love Star Wars. So I just went and watched the film.
Yeah, I guess for me, I really liked The Last Jedi and the risks it took, and I understand the...
Oh, by the way, I liked it too.
Yeah, I know. And
Matt does too. And that is not a popular opinion, by the way.
I know. And I think... What's frustrating about Star Wars in general is everyone wants it to be like the original trilogy, and it's never gonna.
I don't.
But again, we like The Last Jedi. We don't have that mentality. People want it to be like that, and it's never gonna be like that because Star Wars is different for everyone. Just like we talked about, you witnessed the original trilogy as your first time,
right?
I witnessed the prequels as my first time. Yeah. Star Wars is different to me than Star Wars is different to you.
Absolutely.
And it's really tricky when a property like that people care about so much. They're like, what do we appease to? And I felt like this was trying to be a film to appease to people rather than,
I thought it was just kissing the fans' ass.
Exactly. And that's where...
There's tons of fan service.
This is my frustration. And that's my frustration about the film. And if I could sum it up in the throwbacks, that's kind of what feeds into that is it's a film to appease people. And I don't want it to be.
To appease fans.
Correct. And I don't...
There's a difference between people and fans.
Sorry, yes, correct. Yes. But I want it to be... I want it to take chances. I want it to be just a film. I just want it to just tell a story, a good story, and not worry about outside BS to say this dictates what Star Wars is for me. Because the reason why I was frustrated about Rey being a Palpatine, and we can get to that plot point, I guess, right now, is...
This is spoiled, by the way, and that is a gigantic, probably the biggest spoiler from the film. Is ultimately we find out at the end that she is the daughter of Palpatine.
Oh, granddaughter.
Granddaughter, that's right.
Granddaughter.
Yeah.
And it's a little frustrating because, it's nice to have a character that doesn't have to have a connection to somebody. And so when they played that...
But remember how pissed off people were when they were like, her parents are no one important and no one in particular?
And it doesn't matter. Like, people have force sensitivity all the time. Not all the time, sorry. It's not generic. There is a select group of people, but it doesn't matter what your last name is.
Yeah.
That doesn't care. Midichlorians don't decide you're a Skywalker. Oh, we're going to give you midichlorians and you can be a Jedi. It's anyone that has the ability to feel the force should be able to be a Jedi, and that should be important. It doesn't matter if they're a Skywalker or not, and I think it ruined it.
But aren't certain people more powerful?
Oh, sure. I mean, the family.
So it does matter.
It
matters if you're a Skywalker or if you're the granddaughter of Palpatine. Palpatine is like the most powerful being in the universe. It does matter if she's the granddaughter versus just the daughter of some guy who works a sheep farm.
But they did nothing before that to feed into that's what she was.
Yeah.
Or that's how powerful.
Well, no. I mean, the whole thing is... No, that's not true at all.
I mean, they showed that she was powerful, but they never showed...
No, she's had that conflict all along. She's had that connection with Ben all along. She has struggled with resisting the dark side all along. Have we watched a different set of movies?
I was going to say she wasn't resisting the dark side.
Yes, she was having problems. She was drawn to the dark side. Absolutely she was. That was the whole big part of this whole movie was, is she going to go to the dark side or is she going to...
in this film, yes. But leading up to the film, no.
Oh, there were tons of hints that she wasn't all in on being a Jedi. Tons of them.
What are you talking about?
Yes!
The
She was
Last
always
Jedi-
troubled. And Luke Skywalker didn't believe she could become a Jedi because he knew there was something troubled inside her.
No, he didn't. No, he did not believe in her because he didn't believe in the Jedi Order anymore. He didn't believe the Jedi should exist. So that's completely different than saying Rey is going to the dark side, because Rey actually
she was absolutely tempted by the dark side, and for good reason. Now you find out why, because she's Palpatine's granddaughter.
No, you understand that she has emotions and she wants to understand them, but you don't have any the inclination that she's going to the dark side.
I've been thinking this all along.
I can't point to
I can't tell you right now a particular scene where it happened because I just don't remember. But I have thought all along that she was struggling between being a Jedi and going to the dark side.
Oh, see,
You've never thought that.
Now I gotta watch these films again and think about it.
Wow,
and see
I just thought that was obvious.
No, I didn't see that at all.
Okay.
I just saw it as her.
I mean, every Jedi does, though. It happened with Luke too.
Yeah, but that's every Jedi in general. Is the whole point of control for Jedi is to not go into your feelings and tap into the dark side. That's the whole point of a Jedi. I mean, we explored that in.
So why is Rey any different? Why would you not think that she's going through the same struggles as every other Jedi hopeful?
Because I saw it as her trying to understand just being a Jedi first, not understanding. Because the concepts of Jedi and dark side are not really played as much with her. And so I could see their interpretation of what they're trying to do. Now that you're saying that, there are moments that you could interpret it as her playing with the dark side, but she doesn't understand that. So I don't see it as that, because she doesn't understand it.
Interesting.
And so the second film is all about that understanding. But that's why the final scene when she chooses to change her name to Skywalker is so frustrating, because
it's corny.
It would make more sense if she didn't have a last name and then had that moment where she sees Leia and Luke, seeing her teachers, seeing her friends, seeing the ones that practically raised her. Like, it's her, that family. Han Solo's kind of in that mix too in the first film, and understand to say, yes, I am a Skywalker.
Well, she is a Skywalker because she was trained by Luke Skywalker.
But she's a Palpatine. That's her last name.
That's what's in her blood. But she was reared by Luke Skywalker.
But
he's the one who made her a Jedi.
But nothing in the film indicates to say that, it's always been about blood, who your relatives are. And they went against that to say, I'm going to change all that. That
was all symbolic at the end. She didn't go to the courthouse and formally change her name. That was just all symbolism.
But that's
it's her saying I'm on the Skywalker team. That's all that was.
See, I don't see it as that, because
you literally think that she's gonna go and change her name, and you think in the next film, if she's in it, they're gonna, well, it won't happen, but you think if they made another one, they would start calling her Skywalker?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Because it's a moment where she finally, because in the beginning they play with that question all the time throughout her time, is who are you? Who are you? And she can never say.
Well, that's been the question all along.
Yeah, like I said, it's been the question throughout the entire trilogy so far, is who are you? And she's never been able to answer that question. And even though she gets the answer of Palpatine, and that's who she is, even though, yes, can a Palpatine go to the light side? Absolutely. But in the end, she chooses to say, I'm throwing all that away because I'm not accepting who I am, and I'm just going to say I'm this person instead. And that's not really what the film was trying to, what I was noticing the film was trying to say, because they were trying to push a lot of, well, Kylo Ren, he's always a Solo. He's always going to be a Skywalker because of his blood. That, when you talk about that with Rey, it's completely different. And it doesn't make sense, because...
I think you're so in the weeds. You're so nitpicking.
Then Ben should be able to change his last name.
Insignificant.
Well, for me, it's a big theme of her plot. It's a big theme of her journey, and at that end, it just almost threw it away.
See, I thought it was amazing. I'm like, yeah, you've been a Skywalker all along, girl. Yeah, you're a Skywalker. You're a Jedi. You resisted the dark side. You're a Jedi now.
It would have been better if she just said, I'm Rey, and
she still is Rey.
Yeah, but she said that. Well, okay, we can. But it still goes with what I've been saying of regards to, Ben has been going through this entire stage of him always being, no matter what, he's always been Kylo Ren, but he's always been a Solo, and that never changes. Well,
what do you mean by it never changes?
He doesn't. it never gets to the point where he goes, well, I'm going to change. I'm a Skywalker now instead. I mean, he is part Skywalker, but
yeah, are you getting caught up on this? It's ridiculous. What do you mean? Let's move on.
Yes,
this plot is not worth discussing. It's really not worth discussing.
It's not worth keep going.
Let's talk about Ben Solo though, because another script has emerged this week where he doesn't come around. Like I guess the original script that was written by somebody else. The
original director that was going to do this film.
He remains the heel. He never has his moment where he's like his moment of revelation, I guess, as it is.
Yeah.
How did you feel about how they handled him and his character?
You know, I think one thing they did really, really well in pushing from the last film, which I was really happy to see in this film, and which is one of the big things I love about this film. Like, besides that, I'm not very big fan of the other stuff, but this is one I'm like, yes, this is what they did really, really well. And I think it's Rey and Kylo and their thing together, but also his journey. I think they did really, really well.
Did you like that he ended up being a good guy in the end?
I did, and you know what?
Did it make you wonder how he was so evil for so long, and just all of a sudden, like, he just snaps out of it?
But I think then, since the beginning of that film, they sold he always was not sure. He was trying. He was trying to be evil, and he couldn't get that far. There was constant nods and moments where they would say in the film of being whether Snoke was saying, "You're trying too hard. Take that mask off. Look at you. You're pathetic. You're not who I thought you would be." That kind of thing, and it just fed into and Rey trying to get him and him being confused on whether to come back to the light, and him trying at the end of the film of The Last Jedi trying to say, well, I'm just going to make something for myself then because I don't understand who I am. I think it really helped to it finally came into fruition of who he is, what he's became. The moments where you could really, Adam Driver really sold this. Like the actors,
great performance in this film.
Yeah, the performances between the actors, the writing may not be excellent, but the actors sell it so well. And there's just my favorite moment from that film. One of the favorite moments was when he got his lightsaber from Rey, where they did that force talking, but can pass items now.
Dyad.
And he did that moment of like, I have a lightsaber, and it reminded me of Han Solo, and so I was like, oh, this is Ben.
Wait a minute, did Han Solo ever hold a lightsaber?
No, but it's kind of a cheeky moment where
you're being like your dad, you're hamming it up.
Yeah, you're like, well, I got a lightsaber.
I didn't see that. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, as soon as he got the lightsaber and the Knights of Ren,
he did like a little move.
He just kind of just like put his arms out like.
Oh really? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I caught that and I was like, oh, that's so great. That's like. Notice it. And it kind of...
That scene was cool, though.
It made him feel like his own person. And I was like, oh, this is Ben. This is cool. I like this.
I have a plot issue with the end.
Okay.
So he dies. They're supposed to be a dyad, he and Rey. So basically they share a connection. They share essentially the same power.
Well, Snoke created that connection.
Oh, really?
They made it clear in The Last Jedi. He said he created their connection for them to communicate the way they had been.
Oh, really? Oh, I forgot that.
He facilitated that to make her go to them.
Oh, okay. So you're saying they don't have the same powers?
They don't share the same force power, no.
Oh, okay.
They are two completely separate Jedi with their own force powers. I was confused at the end
because they made such a point about the dyad and the connection and how they complemented each other, but then it seemed like she could save people who died and not die herself, but he couldn't.
See, I didn't see that. I saw her heal people and it affected her, but we never saw her bring anyone back from the dead. Because even when Kylo and Ben got stabbed, like he wasn't dead. He was still alive. She just had to heal that wound that she did because she realized Leia did something. And she's like, oh crap, I need to save him because I think he's going to be good now. So she had to heal him. But I don't think he was ever dead when that happened. So I can.
How do you know though?
Well, because his eyes were open, he was breathing.
I thought there was one moment where it appeared he was dead.
No, I never saw it as him as ever being dead because I swear he was still breathing. Like the second time I double checked because I was trying to make sure. I was like, he wasn't dead, right? And he definitely wasn't dead. I mean,
so basically what you're saying is Rey was dead?
Rey was dead.
And you know for sure she was dead?
For sure.
How do you know?
Well, I mean, she wasn't breathing. Her eyes were shut. It was pretty clear that she was gone.
Okay.
And it would make sense.
So raising someone from the dead will kill you. Just healing somebody will not.
Correct.
Okay.
And that made...
I was confused.
And
to me, that wasn't clear at the end of the film. I'm like, why did he just disappear? He just did the same thing she did.
And that would make sense because, that's similar like what we talked about The Witcher. There's always a reaction to what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Yin and yang. And so this is the, healing is going to cause a lot of discomfort with you because you're giving your life force. You're going to feel a little drained. Where this one is like a life for a life. That's going to cost you.
But you're okay. He became a good guy in the end.
Yeah, and I really...
I was a little disappointed by that.
I wasn't, and I because I love the relationship that they created between the two characters, and I think it was the right way to handle it between those two characters. And there's no way Ben could go back and Rey to sell to the people, look, I have Kylo Ren with me. He's Ben now. It's all good. He killed a bunch of your people, but it's all fine.
Yeah, he figured it out now.
Yeah, there's no way she could sell that. So I think that was probably the best.
He had to die.
He had to die, and that was probably the best way to handle it. And I think, like, the kiss itself, I think it was sold. I was totally sold on it. I think it was legitimate, and she always saw him like Luke always saw through the evil of people, and that was just another throwback nod to something like that.
She was in his mind.
True. I mean, they were sharing.
You didn't have to see through anything. She was living him,
Right, and she would see his thoughts and things like that, and the perception that the Jedi have. But she was always one that always believed in him, and
she never really gave up on him.
Exactly, and I think that's. I think they pushed that through into The Last Jedi, and I think they did a marvelous job with that relationship, pushing it through to the end.
What I loved was how he had the patched helmet.
Oh, they put it back together?
Yeah, because remember, you were talking earlier about the scene where he's being berated because he wears the helmet.
Yep, and then he broke it in the elevator after that because he's like...
And then ultimately he realizes, no, F you, this is my freaking helmet. Instead of getting a new one, he patches it together and wears it as a sign of defiance. That's the stuff that I notice in this film that makes me love it. Like, there's all these little subtle hints that, like, as a Star Wars fan, I love that. Like, I love that somebody made fun of him, said his helmet was stupid. That guy ends up dead.
Which you figure out he had a bunch of clones of them that the Emperor made, not really explained very much, but
but here's what I would say. It makes sense, though. Here's something I would say too, though. So we're all caught up in Snoke. He's a character. He's not a character.
I love that.
He's just one of thousands.
He's just a dude.
And so to your point of how long has he been away? Where has he gone? He was gone long enough that he has propagated thousands of Snokes. I mean, if you really start digging into the movie, you start seeing that there are little hints here and there of like what is really going on. And again, I agree that maybe the movie should have had a little more exposition to explain that stuff, but that's why I watch it the second time. And that's why I say when I go to watch a movie the first time, I just go to just absorb it and enjoy it. And I don't sit there as someone who's like trying to find things wrong with it. I do that the second time. If the movie's good enough that I want to see it a second time.
Oh, see, and I go into the film wanting to enjoy it. If something is overbearing for me, then I just can't look past it. And then I try the second time to say, okay, I know this is an issue in my brain. If I get over it and then keep going, how is the film the rest of the way?
That's so weird to me.
Well, it's usually there isn't something that jarring, but for me it was that jarring, and I haven't experienced something that jarring.
That didn't even send up a flag in my mind.
Oh, see that threw up.
It didn't even register for me. Not one iota.
And I was fine with the phrase, like the death speak, like Palpatine said some stuff. That's cool. But once we got there and things started to happen within there, that's when I got a little lost a little bit.
Let's start talking about some other characters. Finn.
Okay.
Bit part, I think.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be a much bigger part of this film.
I do like, and I kind of will put them together, Finn and Poe, because they're kind of just together the entire film.
I would say that about Poe as well.
I do love their relationship that they have between those two characters. Yeah. They play off each other so well. And
I agree with that.
One thing I read and I found out, which was a little ridiculous, and I was like, this doesn't make no sense to me. So they're in the sand pit that they're like going, and then Finn wants to say, Rey, I have to tell you something, and he won't tell Poe what it is. Mm-hmm. Apparently, well, what did you think he was going to say?
I don't even remember.
I thought in my mind, because it seemed like Finn always had a thing for Rey, like that there was just something
he's
there.
going to tell her that he loved her.
Well, clearly that's not what he was going to say. According
why?
to the script, he was supposed to say, "I'm force sensitive."
Really?
Which that's what you're going to tell someone when you're going to die?
No, I don't believe that.
That's what the actor put it on Twitter. That's what he said was in the script.
Really?
Yeah, he confirmed it on Twitter. Which I was surprised by.
Everyone just assumed, I love you.
Yeah, because it's like...
It's because he does, and he never told her.
And he never tells her. But you think that, but
you
maybe...
sure he wasn't joking?
I read...
I think he was joking.
I read a bunch of stories, and they all said he was very serious about it, because that's what people kept saying on Twitter. And he's like, no, I'm going to correct you. This is what he was going to say. Because there are hints of him being force sensitive throughout the entire series. And it's very...
Are there?
Especially at the...
I never picked up on any of that.
Especially at the last... especially in this last film, there's a lot of hints of him being force sensitive.
Like where?
In the moment where he talks to the fellow soldier that deserted the Empire or the First Order. He was talking just about the Force itself and how he can feel it around him, and it's just the Force guides us to certain fates and things like that. So he has hints of it. It would have been great to play on it more, and I felt a little bad for.
Yeah, I never picked up on that at all.
Unfortunately, the only thing I don't like about Finn is he constantly screams Rey's name out when clearly she's doing fine. Like you don't need to help her. She's good.
You're the one who needs the help, bro.
Dude, you're the one that doesn't have force powers, doesn't have a lightsaber. Like, chill out.
Let her do her thing.
I don't need you screaming her name every 20 seconds.
What about Lando and Luke's appearances in the film?
Oh, sorry. Last thing I did want to say about the two, I love that they ended up leading the crew. The entire
I mean,
Rebels.
they kind of had to.
Well, you'd think that would just be Poe Dameron that would be leading it. But I love the realization, and this kind of goes into The Last Jedi a bit, of Poe understanding how to be a good leader and what's worth it and what's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, he does mature a little bit.
And so,
but wait, he does something really stupid in this one too, doesn't he?
What would that be?
I thought, didn't he maybe it's the last movie where he went rogue and led the attack or whatever.
Oh, that was the beginning of the last film.
Yeah.
So him realizing all that stuff and going, hey, I'm not all that. I can't do this on my own. Like, I need someone else. And I love that of the character. I think they did a great job with how much they didn't give these two characters.
Yeah, those two were way underutilized compared to what I thought was going. Because they both were built up in the last film. Like, I thought they were going to be major characters in this one, and they were just kind of side plots.
They also were built like they were going to be something in the first film, and then that they weren't used as much in the second film. But I do like that they ended up. He realized that he needed Poe to help him do this together.
Yep. Lando and Luke. I was shocked at how much Lando was in the movie.
Yeah.
I thought he'd just have a cameo. Honestly, I really just thought he'd come up on a computer screen or something somewhere, and that would be like it. He was like a part of the film.
I like the nod that Luke and him were up to something before that. So they were looking for the dagger already.
Yeah.
That was kind of nice to say, oh, there's a nod to something that they actually were doing, because everyone wants to know, what the heck was everyone doing? How in the world did this all happen? And clearly Luke wanted to find this planet to stop the Emperor before he does all this stuff. But yeah, it was kind of nice to get that nod. But I did not expect Lando as much as I did, which, he did a good job. I mean, he's still Lando.
He played the character all right, I think.
Exactly. I mean, probably... I think there could have been a better way to use him.
Yeah.
But,
I honestly don't know if there is. I mean, if you think back to the original trilogy, he wasn't that big a part of the films back then either, really.
True.
I mean, he was a bit character back then, and all he did was kind of just fly around on ships and be like, yeehaw!
He's always kind of the fifth wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not...
In every scene, obviously, then. What about Luke?
I
also surprised how much he was in it. I think most people were, because after what happened in the last film...
And when people, so there's a lot of speculation in regards to whether there was a shady throw when Rey threw her lightsaber and Luke caught it and says, don't do that.
Yeah.
I thought it was perfect for a nod to the first film, because Luke understands.
Wait, what's the controversy ever?
Is that it's basically the first scene in the last film, Luke throws the lightsaber. And so they're just kind of with him catching it as being oh, you shouldn't have done that in the last film. but I actually see it as
That's good, I think.
no, I agree with you.
What's wrong with people?
I know, I have no idea, but I saw it as a true evolution of the character.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what that shot is for.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like even Luke is growing up at this point.
Yeah,
he's figuring it out.
Because Luke realizes that, like the Jedi are needed, and so it's going to be hard, and resisting, there's going to be troubles going your way, and being able to resist those hardships and keep moving forward is what's really important. And that was kind of his whole plot arc in the last film. I was just
glad that after this movie ended, Luke was reunified with the Jedi. That was the only thing I needed. It didn't bother me in the last film, but I left the last film feeling a little off kilter because he had kind of rejected the Jedi. And after I've watched this, I felt like he realized, oh no, like they're important to me. They're important to our galaxy. I thought that he had reconciled with the Jedi by the end of the film.
But I felt as he already did that, and he's just passing that knowledge now to Rey to say, I messed up, because in the last film, he does have that moment with Ben where
he kind of has an epiphany
Ben, where he when he force projects himself onto that planet, you realize he has that realization, and then when he talks to Ben, it's affirmed that he's like, I'm not going to be the last Jedi. Like, you could strike me down. I'm not the only one that's going to be left to face against.
Well, he knew that Rey existed at that point.
Right, but he at that moment because
he thought until he met Rey that it was going to end.
Well, he wanted it to end, and
he wanted it to end. You're right,
and that was the moment where he realized he doesn't want it to end. For him, he knew Rey was out there, but he realized at that moment he does no longer not.
I thought he was just saving good people.
But that's the second thing he did, is saving those people. Also affirmed that as well, because he's saving the future people. He's allowing Rey the time to save them, which in effect, saves the Jedi. So I already saw that. It's just for him having a moment to be able to talk to Rey about everything he went through in the last one, and to pass that knowledge to her to say, I messed up. Don't do the same mistake I did. Like, the Jedi are needed. Balance is needed. And now we have unbalance, but
let's just talk about the fact that it's all over. I went into this movie, I watched the first trailer, and that was it. I never watched another trailer. I never read another thing about it. I was not prepared for the fact that this was the end. I did not know that this was the end of the entire saga. I did not know that this whole universe is now done, that all these characters are now done. I didn't know any of that before I watched the movie. So that is what hit me the hardest. And I think that is a testament to doing that. Instead of just completely absorbing yourself with every little tidbit about everything that you love, it's nice to kind of go in blind sometimes. And because I knew none of that, the end of the film was very impactful for me. Like, I almost cried a couple times in this movie because it's over. And I didn't know this. Like, I thought that the characters in this movie were going to be in another movie. It's not. It's over. It's done. The Sith Order, gone. Like, all of it. Everything that I had spent my entire life, like, following, watching, caring about, it's all gone. It's done. That was the most impactful thing of this entire movie for me, was that all the characters that I've grown up loving as a kid, as a teen, as a young adult, as an adult, as I am now, it's all gone. Like, and I had no idea that this movie was it. None. So think about that. Like, going into this movie not knowing that this was the last movie of all this stuff. It was impactful for me. Like, I don't understand how people don't like this movie. I really don't, but different strokes for different folks, I guess.
Yeah, I can get that. I think the door is never all the way shut.
Do you think someday they'll come back and do some spin-off thing? Or
I could definitely see a spin-off of some of these characters, especially Rey. I think Rey is a character.
How do you not have Rey in another film?
Just her own film. And
it's crazy, though, that's the way it is.
And even if the Sith Order is maybe over, the Sith are always never over, because again, a Jedi always has to deal with the dark and the light, and a Jedi
Could go Sith.
A Jedi could always go to the dark side.
But if the Order's not around anymore, I guess it would be something else. It wouldn't be Sith. It would be...
the Order is always two people. It's a master and apprentice.
Right.
It's not like the Jedi Order of like 100 Jedi all training on this thing.
But there is no master or apprentice anymore.
Yeah, but it only takes one.
But you can't... What do you mean, though? You mean it would take a Jedi turning?
Yeah, it could take a Jedi Master turning Sith, and then them understanding that power, and then passing it on to another person. So,
but how can you... I thought that you needed a Sith to unlock that power, though. That's what Palpatine was.
No.
He shepherded the people through the process to become Sith because he was a Sith.
Well, he was a master, and so he would take on an apprentice and teach him the ways of the dark side.
Right. But if you don't have anyone who knows the dark side now, how do you teach somebody the dark side? There's nobody that knows it.
There's people that in lore that I've seen through like the TV shows and things like that, there are many Jedi that still will go to the dark side and have to learn it on their own, and will have to study it because.
Very unlikely.
Because then I would ask the question: it's a chicken before the egg argument? How did a Sith master show up in the first place? Right. Did it just appear out of nowhere? No, someone had to learn that.
Or it could have been nurtured over centuries.
True. No, absolutely. And so it's going to take a while to get it back, but it's a possibility for the Sith to still return.
Yeah, I guess the door's still cracked open a little bit there.
It's never closed.
Yeah. But I was pretty devastated by that, to find out that it was all over. And again, that's a testament to, like, staying a little pure before you go into this stuff. Like, everybody else went into this film knowing that. Like, Matt knew that.
Oh, yeah, I knew it.
And that would completely change how I view this whole film, knowing that before I went in to see it. So, I suggest, if you guys really like something, try to stay as pure as you can before you go to see it. Because, as you can see, I have a completely different perspective on the film from you.
We also have different perspectives on our Star Wars history as well.
That's true. And it does make a big difference.
And it does make a big difference on how we view the film itself.
Yep. So, any last words? You want any last points that you want to make before we put a cap on it?
I was going to say, what do you want to see from Star Wars moving forward? I mean, we have The Mandalorian. You haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I've watched it already, so I've seen it that much. But what do you want to see from Star Wars moving forward?
Brand new everything. Brand new world. Brand new characters, brand new universe, brand new everything. And I wouldn't care if they even trash the old Star Wars art style that they've used for all the architecture and the ships. They need to start over. They need to create a brand new universe that can have its own set of rules. I don't even know that it has to have Jedi and Sith or any of that. It needs to be a fantastical sci-fi universe that's brand new. It'll be interesting to watch if they try, and I think they probably will, try to make the next films look aesthetically similar. And I could understand why they would do that. But I would root for something entirely new, because it's like they ended it. It's like, this is done. This is this universe of people and planets and characters and monsters that has existed, but now it's done. And so it would be weird if the next set of movies takes place someplace entirely different, but somehow everything still looks the same. I don't want to see land speeders and X-Wings and TIE fighters and Star Destroyers and Death Stars. They need to make new Death Stars, new X-Wings, new TIE fighters. That's what I want to see from Star Wars going forward. And if they do eventually want to come back to this world and do something with Rey, I'll be in line to see it. Because it is still obviously an amazing universe that they've built. There's a reason why it's been so successful for so long. So I wouldn't begrudge Disney for coming back to it at some point. But when they start with the next films, to me, it just needs to be something entirely brand new.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that, and I'm pretty similar to that. I still would I would want them to stay within the continuity of what's already been. Maybe it's more in the future, so that it's kind of, that's where you start all over. It's just way in the future, so then that way you don't have to worry about getting the X-Wings back, because it's been so while X-Wings.
And now there's statues of Luke Skywalker in the cities, and Leia.
Little.
We didn't even talk about Leia, actually.
Oh yeah,
I was really shocked by how much she was in the movie. I mean,
and that's old footage.
Oh, it is.
That's all old footage from the first film that they had.
Oh, really?
I
thought that was all CG.
No, that's all Force Awakens.
So that shows you that actually the plot was already in place. They weren't flying by the seat of their pants.
They said that they had to work around it. They were doing their best to work around it, and you could tell because her line.
There was definitely some CG in there, though. I saw some CG for sure.
Because they had to, because that scene wasn't shot in that exact place, but her herself. That was her acting that scene in a different place.
So she was green screened on top of the set.
She was put into that scene.
And you could tell by the way she was always composed in the shot. A lot of times she was in like the corner of the screen. And it was a lot of times it was like an over the shoulder view.
Yep. Sometimes even her lines were very generic of like, don't look at me with that smirk. And it's like, okay, you could grab that from anywhere.
From like the rungs and rungs of voice acting you have of her.
And sometimes even the scene where she went away to go to do that force thing
where she projected herself,
or just like spoke to.
Are you talking about when she sacrificed herself?
Yeah, to speak to Kylo.
She basically did the same thing that Luke did. She just projected herself out.
Well, no, all you heard was a voice. You didn't see her face.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. She's taking herself and sending it somewhere else. That's projecting.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, when she was doing that, there was one of the other actors had to say what she was doing. And because it's like she doesn't have the opportunity to say, I'm going to go lay down or I'm going to go force project myself. It's more of...
They did a pretty good job working around the fact that she's gone.
And I commend them so much for doing that. You know,
like if you hadn't known that she had died, you wouldn't have known watching the movie.
It was really... I commend them for really trying to do that and make it work because I think they, obviously could do better, but for what they had, they did a good job with it. But yeah, for Star Wars for the future, I'll definitely would like to see it still lay in a plot, but I want different stories. I want them to take risks. Like I said, in Marvel movies, I feel like
everything's a risk now.
Well, I think
you're starting all over. Everything is a risk now.
Yeah.
Everything. Every piece of art, every ship that they're drawing is a risk right now. Every planet that they're creating is a risk right now. Every character that they're developing is a risk right now because it's all new and you have millions of people who have these pre-built expectations of what Star Wars. It's all a risk.
But for me, I could care less about those things and I care more about telling a really interesting story about really interesting characters in a plot that matches what Star Wars is and can have quirkiness. It can be serious. But I want them to try to take creative risks with the brand.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think the opportunity to make the best Star Wars ever is there because they don't have to deal with all these crybaby, whiny fans anymore. I honestly feel like the fans have hurt Star Wars in a lot of ways.
I could agree 100%.
And now that they don't have to worry about some dumbass in his basement whining about Luke Skywalker, blah, 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 and they can just make a freaking movie. Like, there's an opportunity to make some of the best sci-fi movies ever made again. So I think it's good, honestly.
Oh, for sure. And the last. That's why I think we like The Last Jedi so much because it's so different. It takes so many more risks than.
Yeah. See, I've never looked at Star Wars like this is something I own and this is how it should be. And if it's not, I fucking hate it. Like I've never been that way. I just go watch Star Wars. That's all I do.
Yeah, but
either I like it or I don't. But I don't know.
No, I think that
Star Wars fans to me are some of the most annoying fans in all of pop culture. I'll just say that right now.
Yeah, I just since it just made me nervous with when Disney bought it up and how Marvel has been very like they're entertaining movies to watch for sure. Are they phenomenal films? Not so much. Endgame. I mean, and
can you think of how many sci-fi films can you think of that are just great films? There aren't
very many. Yeah. And so my nervousness was, and it got me, and I hopefully they get away from it, and because of them maybe starting over and doing something different, I felt as if the first and last film were very formulaic, and where the middle one took it.
That always happens.
Yeah,
but all three trilogies have been that way.
In a sense, yes, but I think each of them have a different tone to them. Where in this one, it feels fan appeasing more than it actually feels like it's trying to be actual film to tell a really great story.
Oh, they were talking about the second film.
Oh, sorry. Say that one more time. I totally missed it.
You were talking about the second films, and I was saying and how they have like a twist or they do things a little differently, and I was like, that's true of every trilogy. All three trilogies,
yeah.
the middle film is the one that's a little different, a little twistier.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the second film probably takes the risk of all the three films. But I think overall as trilogies, each individual one has its own tone to it. And I feel as this one is like a fan-appeasing trilogy rather than an actual trilogy that's trying to tell an overarching great story. And it might have been because they didn't have a plan in the first place.
All right, that's it for our second episode of Spoiled, part of our brand new audio-only initiative here on Sifted, games at sifted.net. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, I am at Dinfire. Mitch is at Mitch Sikor, Sikor. If you'd like to support us financially, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/sifted. So have a great day, and we'll see you next time.